Thanks, everybody, for joining us today for Insight's 10 Simple Tools workshop. My name is Chris Butler. I'm the executive director here at Insight. And this workshop really is about letting you know about 10 simple tools that we find are very helpful for folks living with visual impairments. Some of these products are specifically designed for folks that do still have some vision, and then there are other products that can be used by folks with low vision as well as folks with no vision. At the end of the presentation, I will let you know where you can purchase these items and similar items if you're interested. First item I wanted to talk about today, which folks find incredibly helpful, is something called the 2020 Low Vision Pen. These pens generally cost around $1. You can get them a little bit cheaper, a little bit more expensive, but generally the cost comes out to about $1. These are basically Sharpies. They're basically black magic markers. What makes 2020 Low Vision pens unique is that they have fast drying ink. So a lot of times when folks use black magic markers or they use a black Sharpie, it bleeds through the paper. And so the nice thing about a 2020 Low Vision pen is that it has fast drying ink, so it doesn't bleed through the paper. What makes using a 2020 Low Vision pen better than using a ballpoint pen or a pencil is that it draws with a much cleaner, bolder, easy to read line. So when you're making a grocery list, when you're writing appointments down on your calendar, when you're making a note to yourself or writing out a check, it's much easier for you to be able to see what you're writing when you use a 2020 Low Vision pen. There was a company that for decades made these pens. It was Sanford Pen Company. They were ultimately bought out by Papermate, and they were excellent, high quality, long lasting 2020 pens. And about 10 years ago, Sanford and Papermate stopped making those pens. And so they're no longer available anywhere, unfortunately. The catalog companies, which I will talk about at the end of this presentation, LS&S, Independent Living Aids, and Maxi Aids, all have their version of the 2020 Low Vision pen. To be honest, I don't think they're as great as the Sanford pen was, but they do the job. I do want to add a couple of pro tips. So this is feedback that I've learned myself and that other folks have told me about these pens, is that because it's fast drying ink, if you're using the pen and then you just kind of put it on the table and you don't put the cap on, or you don't put the cap on tightly enough, because it's fast drying ink, the ink in the pen will dry up. So you want to make sure when you're not using these 2020 Low Vision pens that you put the cap on and that you make sure the cap is on nice and tight so that the ink doesn't dry out in the pen. The other thing to be cautious of is it has a really sharp point to it, but if you are one of those people that presses down really hard when you write things, the tip of the pen will smush up. And so you won't be able to, your writing will become less legible because you don't have that fine point on the end. So if you're one of those folks that tends to really press down when you write, when you're using a 2020 pen, you want to have a lighter touch so that you don't wear down the tip of the pen. Second item I wanted to talk about, which goes hand in hand with the 2020 pen, is bold line pads. These come in a variety of different sizes and shapes, as well as colors. Most folks opt for the white pads with the black lines, but you can also get these pads in yellow and in green. So some people see yellow and green better than they see white. So you can get them in those different colors. They do come in standard 8.5 by 11, but you can also get them in a narrower size, which are good for making lists, like grocery lists. You can also get them in sticky note format, so they're much smaller, and you can peel them and stick them onto things just like you would a Post-it note. This particular one that I have on the screen has 3/4 inch lines, but you can get these bold line pads that have narrower lines. So it's really just a matter of preference. And again, these are great for making notes, for writing letters, to making grocery lists, writing down directions, writing down reminders, basically anything that you would be writing down. It's good to have these bold line pads. And what makes them so useful is that if you just have a blank piece of paper, many times folks will start writing something and then they have their writing just kind of goes up on a 45-degree angle. It's like climbing a mountain. So you kind of start at one point, and then as you're writing, your handwriting kind of goes up at an angle. So these bold line pads kind of provide you with a guide so that your handwriting kind of stays on a straight line. And it helps you to organize your list and know where to write. These, depending on the size and the color, range anywhere from $4 to $8 a pad. Most of the pads, again, depending on the particular pad that you buy, these 8.5 by 11 pads generally have about 100 sheets of paper. The grocery pads, which are narrower, typically have about 100 sheets of paper. The Post-it notes, it's more like 25 or 50 in a pad as opposed to 100. And those are more expensive, obviously, because they have the adhesive on the back. Another great item, which I think everyone should carry, and again, this is an item that's good for folks with low vision as well as folks with no vision, is something called a signature guide. A signature guide is about the size of a credit card. So it's about the same width and length as a credit card. It is generally rectangular in shape. Sometimes it has rounded corners, like the picture I have on the screen. Sometimes it has squared off corners. This particular one that I have pictured on the screen is a very thin plastic, so it's bendable. And that's great for, putting in your wallet, because as your wallet bends, the signature guide bends with it. It's not rigid. But you can get signature guides that are made of a thicker plastic that are rigid. That won't bend. And some people like that. You can also buy signature guides that have a little hole punched out in one corner and has a little chain attached to it so that you can use it as a keychain, or you can attach it to your keychain, or you could attach it to the strap on your pocketbook to make it more convenient and to make sure that you always have it. The way it basically works is in the middle of that rectangular piece of plastic is a cutout, a stencil of a smaller rectangle. And the idea is that if you have to sign your name on a document or a credit card receipt or anything where you need to sign your name, that you would put the signature guide, the hole in the signature guide where the person wants you to sign, and then you would look for the hole with your pen tip. And then once you find the hole, you would sign inside that rectangle that's in the middle of the signature guide. So again, it's made of durable plastic. It's sized to fit a standard signature area. Low vision users will appreciate how portable and handy it is to have the signature guide. And again, you can put it in your wallet. If you have a case for your phone, you could put it in the case for your phone. You could put it in your pocketbook and carry it wherever you want to go. Generally, these cost about $1. So you can get them in the catalogs for 85 or 95 cents. You will pay shipping and handling, so they'll be much more expensive than that. We sell them here at Insight, I think, for 94 cents. So they're about $1, and they will last for a really long time. Similar to the signature guide are check guides. So very often, again, folks who are visually impaired as well as totally blind can have issues writing out a check. So this check guide is made of the same material as the signature guide. It's a thin piece of plastic and it has stencils cut out of it. And there is a space where you would put the date, a space where you put the payee's name, a space or a rectangle cut out for where the legal line goes, and then a rectangle where your signature goes. And again, you would use the tip of your pen to find those individual rectangles. to be able to know where you need to write things. So if you have a standard size check, you would put the check behind this check guide, line it up. And I suggest using a paper clip to hold it in place. And then you would write out your check using the signature guide. If you happen to have one of the larger checks, what they call the business size checks, or a low vision check, which is the checks that are a little bit larger, they have large print, they have raised lines on them. There are also business size check guides, so you can get them in standard size or business size. There are also what are called clamshell check writing guides. So the clamshell check writing guide is in two pieces with kind of an accordion hinge in the middle. And so the clamshell check guide looks just like this plastic check guide that I have on the screen, but you can open it up, put the check inside, and then close the clamshell. And that basically holds the check in place. As I said, I think for most folks, just using a regular standard check guide with a paper clip to hold the check in place works. But if you find that you're having problems with that, you could certainly move to a clamshell, which again, you open up, you put the check inside of it, you close it, and now the check is held in place. The standard check guides sell for about $2. The clamshell check guides, which again are heavier plastic with that hinge, cost about $12. So they're a little bit more expensive. Number 5 is bump dots. This is a very popular item that folks, again, whether you are visually impaired or totally blind, find very helpful. Bump dots are hard rubber dots that have an adhesive on the back of them. So they are basically peel and stick. They generally come in sheets of 20. So when you buy a package of bump dots, generally there's about 20 bump dots or 25 bump dots on the sheet, and they are all peel and stick. So you peel them off and you stick them to something. And basically what bump dots do is make things tactile. And so where I see people use bump dots most often is on their microwave. So very often your microwave is going to have a flat keypad. And a lot of times the numbers on those keys, on those buttons, on those flat buttons are gray and the background is black. And so it makes it very hard for folks to see because there's not a lot of contrast. And so you can take a bump dot, peel it off, stick it on the number 5 of your microwave keypad. And then the keypad becomes tactile because you can feel the front of the keypad. You feel the bump dot. You say, okay, that's where the 5 is. Now, once I know where the 5 is, I can find all of the other numbers on the keypad. You might also stick a bump dot on the start button, or if your microwave has minute plus or quick start button, you might also put the bump dot on those buttons so that you can quickly find them. A lot of folks who have stoves or ovens that have dials, I know a lot of ovens and stoves now have flat digital controls, but if you still have a stove or oven with a dial, you can also put bump dots on the dial. So very often people will put a bump dot at 350 and then they turn the dial until they reach the bump dot and they know that the oven's on 350. A lot of times people will use bump dots on their washing machine, on their dryer, again, to be able to identify where specific buttons are or where specific settings are on the dial. I have also seen people use bump dots to be able to differentiate different products. So you may, for instance, have a bottle of shampoo and a bottle of conditioner, and they are both the same size, same color, same weight, same shape, same everything. The only thing that's different is one says shampoo and one says conditioner. So you might put a bump dot on the conditioner so that when you're in the shower, you feel the shampoo bottle, there's no bump dot. I know that that's shampoo. You feel the conditioner bottle, you feel the bump dot, and you know that that is the conditioner. So that is one great way to use bump dots. But bump dots, again, can be used in multiple different ways. They come in a variety of sizes, colors, and shapes. So bump dots come in orange, clear, white, and black. Some bump dots, like the ones you see on the screen here, so the ones all the way on the left are orange. Those are small orange bump dots that have a flat top. But all the way on the right side are orange bump dots that are medium size that have a rounded top. Then the ones in the middle are large, clear bump dots that have a rounded top. You can also get bump dots that are squared with a flat top. They make bump dots that are pyramid shaped. They make bump dots that are really called touch dots that have a very small dot that a lot of times people will put on their corded telephones. If you still have a phone with actual buttons, or a flip phone that has buttons, sometimes people will take those touch dots and put them on the number 5 on their flip phone or their corded phone in order to be able to find the 5. So they come in lots of different varieties, sizes, colors, and shapes. It's really about figuring out what you're going to use it for. And if you are visually impaired, orange might be a color that you can see better than white or black. And so if you're looking for a bump dot that's going to provide some visual cues, you might choose the orange as opposed to clear or white. Generally, bump dots, again, they come in sheets of 20 or 25, generally cost between $4 and $5 for a sheet of 20 to 25. Next is cafeteria trays. So we are big proponents of folks using trays. This is what's on the screen is basically a cafeteria tray that you would find at Burger King or McDonald's or Panera or any kind of fast food restaurant. You don't necessarily have to use a cafeteria tray. You could use a cookie sheet. You could use a hospital tray. You could use a big tray, a small tray. Really, the value of the tray is the raised lip around the edge. And we suggest folks use trays for a couple of different things. One is if you are pouring liquids. So if you are making a recipe, if you're going to make cookies and you need to pour oil and you need to measure and pour water and you need to measure and pour flour, whatever it is you're measuring and pouring and putting in the bowl, it's best to measure and pour over the tray. Because if you happen to spill anything, if you happen to be trying to, pour a cup of water and you spill some of the water, the spill is contained on the tray because you have that raised lip going around the edge. If I am pouring water over the tray and I spill some, the spill is contained to the 4 corners of the tray. If I spill something on my counter or my kitchen island, then I don't know where the spill is. And it's a lot harder to clean up. And it could roll off the table and onto the floor. And I may not be able to see the spill on the floor. So if I know that I'm only pouring and measuring things on the tray, if I spill something, I just carry the tray to the sink and I wash the tray off. And I know that the entire mess has been cleaned up. If you are sorting your medications, so a lot of folks at the beginning of the week kind of lay out all of their pills and put them in pill boxes. So if you're sorting your medications, we would recommend doing that on a tray. Again, if one of those pills rolls away from you and you're doing it on the tray, the pill can't roll any further than the 4 corners of the tray. If you're doing it on your kitchen table, your dining room table, your kitchen counter, and the pill rolls away, it's a much harder to find because it could be anywhere on the counter. It could have rolled off the counter onto the floor. And it may be so small and the contrast may not be good enough that you'd be able to find it. So if you do that on the tray, you're able to find it. Carla, our vision rehabilitation teacher, also recommends if you're cooking something, that you put all of your ingredients on the tray before you start. So then you're not having to go to the cupboards and the refrigerator and lots of different places while you're trying to follow the recipe to put things together. If you put all of your ingredients and all of your measuring spoons and your measuring cups and your bowl and everything is on the tray or a couple of trays, then everything is very easy to find. and you're not searching around looking for things. So we are big proponents of trays. Again, we sell them here at Insight for about $2 each. You can get them a little cheaper, a little bit more expensive online. We tend to sell smaller, again, those cafeteria trays, but you can get them in bigger sizes. And they also come in a variety of colors. The one that I have on the screen is black, but you can get them in literally a rainbow of colors. You can get them in white and gray and tan and brown and beige, in red. So whatever colors make the most sense for your particular vision. The seventh item is something called a push-pull. So this basically looks like a wooden ruler, and it has a notch cut out of the very end of it, where the 1-inch mark is. And then it also has kind of a half of a heart shape at the 2-inch mark. And a push-pull is designed to pull and push your oven rack. So one of the things that folks often struggle with when they're trying to use the oven is being able to safely, you're going to make some cookies, you preheat your oven to 350 degrees, your oven's been heating up for 10 or 15 minutes, you open the oven door, everything is really hot. And even if you're using an oven mitt, there is a risk of burning your forearm or your elbow if you pull the rack out and you kind of misjudge where the rack is, or you lose your balance a little bit and maybe fall on top of the oven door. So the nice thing about the push-pull is that it basically puts a foot between you, your hand, and the oven rack. So you basically hold the push-pull in your hand, and if you're pulling the rack out of the oven, you would notch the end of the oven rack with that notch that's at the 2-inch mark. So you'd kind of put that over the top of the edge of the oven rack and then pull the oven rack out using this push-pull device. You put your cookie sheet on top of the oven rack, you're ready to push it back into the oven. Now you use the notch at the end of the push-pull to push the oven rack in. So it basically keeps your hands and arms from actually physically having to go into the oven. These have a magnet attached to the back of them so that if your stove is right next to your refrigerator, you can put the push-pull on your refrigerator using the magnet, and that way it's always there when you need it. These cost about $3.50. The eighth item is a 2-for-1. It's talking watches and or talking clocks. So again, very often folks with a visual impairment will tell us that one of the struggles they have, especially at night, is knowing what time it is, because you may or may not be able to see the clock. There are a large variety of talking clocks and talking watches. The talking clock I have on the screen is one of the more inexpensive versions of the talking clock. The talking watch that I have on the screen has, as well as talking to you, it also has large print numbers. So it may be easier for some folks to see the face and hands on a talking watch than it is on a regular watch. Talking watches and talking clocks basically work the same way. You press a button and it tells you what time it is. There are talking clocks that you can buy that will also give you the date and the temperature. Most of the talking clocks that are for sale also have an alarm clock component, so you can set it to go off at a certain time. The talking clock that's on the screen, the alarm is actually a crowing rooster. So if you set the alarm clock for 6 a.m., you get awoken by the dulcet tones of a crowing rooster. Some of the talking watches, I believe, also have a feature where you could set an alarm to it. I will say that, again, 10 or 15 years ago, these products were made in the United States, and they were very high quality, and they literally would last forever. Probably about 10 or 15 years ago, these particular products started getting made overseas, and the quality of the products really diminished. So these are very disposable products. So if you buy a talking clock or a talking watch, you have to expect that you may only get 2 or 3 years out of it, and then you would dispose of it and buy a new one. The talking watches you can't take to a jewelry store or to a watchmaker to have the battery replaced. So, it's really a disposable product. You wear it until it stops working. When the battery dies, basically you need to throw it out and buy a new one. For that reason, they're fairly inexpensive. Both talking watches and talking clocks generally range from around $12 to $50. You can get talking watches that are a little bit more expensive than that. Like everything else, you get what you pay for. So if you buy a $12 talking clock or a $12 talking watch, it's probably a good bet that you may only get a year or 2 or 3 out of it. If you buy the more expensive talking clocks and talking watches, chances are they're a little bit better quality and they'll last a little bit longer. The ninth item that we find very helpful for folks is to have not only one task lamp, but to have several task lamps. And if you've been to the workshops we've done about lighting and glare control, or if you've been to the Understanding Vision Loss workshops, you know that we are really big proponents of having good task lighting. So our eyes need light in order for us to be able to see. However, the light that comes through the window, the lights, the fluorescent lights or the LED lights that are up in the ceiling, the floor lamp that you might have in your living room, the light that you might have in the ceiling in your kitchen, those lights are really designed to provide ambient lighting. They're basically meant to light up the room. And because the light is so diffused and because it's meant to light up the entire room, those lighting sources create a lot of glare, and glare makes it much harder for people to be able to see. And so if you're trying to read something, or if you're trying to write something, you're trying to look at a picture, what you really need is light directed right on top of whatever it is you're trying to see. You could certainly do that with a flashlight. You could do it with the flashlight in your phone. But if you're at home, you probably don't want to be reading something and having to hold a flashlight in your hand. And that's where these task lamps are very helpful. The one I have on the screen is one that I particularly like. It's made by OttLite. It is probably in the mid-range. They cost between $40 and $50. The nice thing about this particular OttLite is that it's foldable. So if you're not using it, you can fold it up. And then when you want to use it, you just fold the light up. When you fold it down, it goes off. When you fold it up, it goes on. It also has a carrying handle so that you can carry it with you around. It's probably not something you would take to Twin Oaks, but it's something you could carry with you around the house to different rooms. It plugs into the wall, and it is also battery operated. So if you're going to carry it around, you could use the battery power. And OttLite makes really good lighting as far as being easy on your eyes and not creating a lot of glare. That having been said, you don't have to buy an OttLite. There's lots of different lighting solutions. I very often suggest that folks go to Joann Fabrics, Michaels, Hobby Lobby, Staples, Target, Walmart, any of those kinds of stores sell craft lamps and desk lamps. Basically, what you're looking for is a good gooseneck desk lamp. You want something that you can adjust so that you can bring it, again, down close to whatever it is you're trying to read. I would suggest, if you're going to buy $20 task lamps, which will definitely do the job, that you might consider buying 3 or 4 or 5 of them and having one in the kitchen, one in the living room, one in the bedroom, one in the bathroom. Basically have them in places where you're going to be looking at stuff and reading stuff, so that you always have that lighting source available to you when you need it. The last item that I wanted to talk about, which I find is, of all the products we talked about today, is the one that I think the fewest people are actually aware of. And these are called easy outlets or easy plug guides. So again, one of the things that we often have people talk to us about is that they struggle being able to plug things into the wall socket. And so if you can't see exactly where the electrical outlet is to be able to plug something in, very often you might be feeling around with your finger, trying to figure out where you plug in the device into the wall. Of course, the problem is if you stick your finger too far into the electrical outlet, you're going to get a shock, and we don't want anyone to get a shock. So this particular product replaces the electrical outlet cover that you probably have. So the electrical outlet cover you probably have on your plugs now is probably pretty flush to the wall. So the electrical outlet matches up with the electrical socket. These easy plug guides are much thicker. And so it provides a tactile guide to where the plug is. And so for those of you who can see on the right-hand side of the screen, the outlet cover is probably 10 times thicker than the outlet cover you currently have on your electrical sockets. And the place where you plug in your device, the electrical socket, is deeper into the device so that you can safely feel around for where you plug things in. And then the holes will help you guide you into getting the plug into the socket without having to use your finger and, getting a shock. So it's contoured to allow you to safely direct your plug into the electrical slot without getting your fingers near the actual socket. So these are relatively expensive compared to the other products we talked about. They cost around $15, $16, $17 each. You certainly don't have to replace all of the outlet covers in your house with one of these. You could probably get by with just purchasing one or two of them. And what I would do is think about the places where you're plugging things in and out all the time. So I know in my house, I do clothes ironing once a week. So I plug the iron in and then I unplug the iron. At least once a week, I'm plugging the iron in and out. It may be your smartphone charger or chargers for your electronic devices that every day you're plugging them in and out. It might be a curling iron in the bathroom or the rechargeable electric shaver that you're plugging in and out of the socket all of the time. So, I mean, if you have a socket where the only thing that's plugged in there is a floor lamp, you plugged in the floor lamp 5 years ago, and you're probably never going to touch that plug for another 10 years, it wouldn't make much sense to replace that outlet cover with one of these. But if there's an area in your kitchen or your bathroom or your bedroom where you're constantly plugging things in and out, and you're worried about being able to find the electrical outlet, having one or two of these would make a big difference. And basically, the installation, you would just unscrew or have somebody unscrew for you the existing electrical cover that's there and replacing it with this and basically using the same screw. So it's a pretty easy installation. As far as acquiring these products, everything except the talking watches and talking clocks, we sell here at Insight in what we call our Outlook shop. So we have a little store over to the left of Viula, our receptionist. The store is open whenever we're open. So Monday through Friday from 8 to 4. You can feel free to come in and browse the products that we have. Besides the products we talked about today, there are other products that we also offer in the store. I do caution people that it's good to call ahead to make sure that we have the item that you're looking for. So it's always Murphy's Law that somebody's looking for large, rounded bump dots, and they come all the way up here from Westerly, and it turns out that we just happen to be out of round, large, orange bump dots the day they come. So if you're planning to come in and there's a specific item that you're looking for, it's good just to give Viula, who's our receptionist, a call and just say, hey, I was planning to come in today to get some large rounded orange bump dots. I just wanted to make sure you had them. And she can confirm for you that we do before you come in. There are also 3 major catalog companies. They sell literally thousands of products that are designed specifically for people with vision impairments as well as hearing impairments. There are, as I said, literally hundreds, if not thousands of products. Their catalogs are, 70, 80, 90, 100 pages long, and each page has multiple items on it. All of them basically sell the same products. All of their prices are basically the same. So we don't have a recommendation of one over the other. Any of them are fine. The first one is Independent Living Aids. Their website is independentliving.com. They do have a 1-800 number, which is 800-537-2118. If you call them and ask them to send you a catalog in the mail, they will happily send you a catalog in the mail. And as I said, they also have a website. Same with Maxi Aids. Their website is maxiaids.com. Their phone number, 800-522-6294. And the third one is LS&S Products. Their website is lssproducts.com. Their 800 number is 800-468-4789. And again, same with Maxi Aids and LS&S. If you call them and say, I'm looking for a catalog, they will happily mail you a printed catalog in the mail. They also have the internet that you can go on their website and browse and purchase all of their products. If you get the catalog in the mail and you find a product that you're interested in, you just call the 1-800 number and you order the product. They will mail it to you. They all have very good return policies. So if you happen to buy an item and you get it and you decide it's not what you were looking for, or it's not what you expected, you just give them a call and they will process the return very quickly and easily. So they're all three of them we have extensive experience with, and they are really good to deal with. I will say that for most items, it tends to end up being a little bit cheaper to buy them through us. So our retail price may be a little bit more than what you would pay in the catalogs, but if you come here and buy it, there's obviously no shipping and handling charge. So, you can buy a 2020 pen from Independent Living Aids, maybe 5 cents cheaper than what we sell it for, but you're going to end up paying $3 or $4 for shipping and handling. So the pen ends up costing you $5 instead of, $1 here. So that is one advantage. The other advice I would give folks is if you're looking at a product in the catalog, definitely give us a call and we'll give you an honest assessment about that product. So myself, Lucille, Carla, Ashley, we all have pretty good experience with all of these products that are sold through the catalog. So we can tell you what's the good ones, what's the bad ones, what works as advertised, what might, or is there another alternative that might be better for your particular situation. So we're always happy to do that. Obviously, we don't make any commissions from any of these companies, so we don't have a vested interest in whether you purchase a particular product or not. So I'm going to stop the recording now, and for those of us who are joining us in person, we are going to move to a part where I will answer any questions that folks might have and get your tips or your ideas for your favorite tools.